Have you ever had a situation where you were praying about something so much that you didn't know if you were worrying or praying about it? So, not me. Not too long ago, I was in that place, and it's like a weird place, right? Because every time I would go to pray, I would just pray about the same thing over and over and over. And I don't even know if what I was doing was prayer, because it became more of like me just telling God what he should do. And I wasn't even like coming to God and saying, God, I praise you, God, you're amazing. I was just like coming to God and just like giving God instructions on how he was supposed to move in my situation. I started to feel my frustration and my disappointment, and it felt like it was actually blocking me from talking to God, even though in my mind I was telling myself that I was talking to God, right? Because every time that I would go to pray, I would feel discouraged. And I would let the enemy say things to me like, why bother praying about this? It hasn't changed. It's not gonna change. And for that matter, why bother about praying about anything? If that's not gonna change, nothing else is gonna change. Yeah. And so one day, I came across this verse, and it just kind of hooked me. I don't even remember where I was. I saw it, and I kept thinking about it. So I went and found it. A couple days later, I went back and I read it. Then I went back and I read it again. I was like, this is really good. And a few days later, I was still thinking about it. And I would go and I would look it up, and I highlighted it on the app on my phone. And I just started declaring this verse over my situation. And I would read it over and over again. And so then I decided that I was gonna print it out. So I printed it out in like little, card-sized things, and I cut it up, and I put it everywhere. I put it up in my kitchen. I put it on the visor in my car. I even taped it to a plant, like the pot of the plant. And it was so amazing because this verse just began to get into my spirit. And every time that I saw it, one of the places that I put it in the kitchen was like when you open up the cabinet to get a coffee cup, I taped the verse right there. And so every time I saw it, it wasn't like I stopped to read it, but it was like I would see it, and something began to shift in my heart. And the funny thing is, nothing about the situation actually changed, but what changed was the way I began to see my situation. And I began to have more peace because God had given me a promise. Now, I'm not gonna share my verse with you. I know you wanna know what it is, but I'm not gonna tell you because it's my verse. You gotta go and get your own verse. Let me tell you something. The promises in this book, they're for you. This is not just a book of stories. When this book says, I will never leave you nor forsake you, that means you. That means God is with you. If you feel lost or you feel lonely, you put a promise on it. When you read that Jesus said, peace I leave with you, that means you. So when you feel anxious, you put a promise on it. The Bible says if the Son sets you free, then you are free indeed. It's talking about you. So put a promise over your addiction. Put a promise over what you're struggling with. You don't have to wait for Pastor Stephen to tell you about God's promises. They are right here. Put a promise over your marriage. Put a promise over your family. God's promises are generational. When God told Abraham, he said, I will make you the father of many nations. And he told Abraham, kings will come from you. You know what Abraham did? I bet you can guess. He stopped and he built an altar right there to mark the moment of what God had spoken to him. And then this is really cool. Years later, when Isaac, Abraham's son, he found himself on the run and he was afraid for his life, the Lord appeared to him and reminded him of the promise that was made to his father. And right there, Isaac built an altar and he worshiped God. God's promises are ours for the taking. So when you get one, you better slow down. Don't let it slip away. Write it down. Put it up where you can see it. And let God rename your situation right before your eyes. Hey, thanks for watching. I hope that encouraged you today. Make sure that you like, subscribe, and hit that bell to turn on notifications so that you don't miss out on other videos just like this one. And I'll see you back here next time.